Session 593, commonly dubbed USS Thresher, presented a striking vision. This nuclear-powered attack submarine incorporated cutting-edge technology and supreme engineering. Indeed, she was a formidable presence, capable of moving faster and deeper than conventional submarines. USS Thresher's limitations lay only in onboard provisions and crew requirements, drawing its name from the Thresher shark. Due to its distinctive form and predatory nature, this naval addition could navigate deeper and more stealthily than any existing underwater craft, rendering it nearly undetectable. It boasted the most advanced sonar system ever integrated into a submarine. USS Thresher had previously served the U.S. Navy, but in 1962 it was withdrawn from the waters and stationed at Portsmouth Shipyard in New Hampshire for extensive modifications. Panels were secured, pipework connected, and various equipment tested. Once readied, it was gently lowered into the water, anchored by cables, for propeller testing. Inside its robust steel shell lay a maze of corridors and compartments, capable of accommodating over 120 crew members comfortably for a month without needing to resurface. Beds were arranged in triple tiers, some foldable against walls to conserve space. Each individual was allocated a modest locker for personal items. The mess hall, equipped with built-in chessboards, offered a recreational escape for the crew. Although conditions were compact, they were an improvement from earlier models. The commanding officer had to make do with a minuscule desk and a telephone in his so-designated study, but the technological suite in the control room was unparalleled for its time. A single operator could manage the entire submarine. A button's push could set the vessel on autopilot, maintaining depth and direction. USS Thresher seemed invincible, but it was a component of a perilous arms competition. The imperative to defend America and its allies against escalating Soviet threats meant certain compromises were made. The newly installed technology was alien to several crew members. Training provided was deemed insufficient. Additional issues surfaced regarding the electrical systems. They lacked adequate waterproofing. These seemingly minor oversights proved catastrophic in the rush to operationalize her. In retrospect, this prized naval asset was a calamity in the making. The ill-fated journey of the submarine commenced hours before its departure. On April 9, 1963, just past 3 a.m., the engineers activated the reactor, setting the countdown for the submarine's readiness for its trial expedition. The primary objective was to assess its diving potential and ascertain the maximum depth it was designed to handle. USS Skylark, a submarine rescue ship, would facilitate communication with Thresher during its underwater exploration. Commanded by 36-year-old Lieutenant Commander John Wesley Harvey, the crew embarked from Portsmouth Shipyard into the vast ocean. Upon reaching the designated location at sea with Skylark, John Harvey initiated dive procedures. Preliminary shallow dives were conducted to validate equipment functionality and establish reliable communication with Skylark through underwater telephony, ensuring crew members were acclimated to their stations before the actual examination commenced. The crew was under experienced guidance. John Harvey, a U.S. Naval Academy graduate, had served on both an aircraft carrier and a diesel-electric submarine. Following nuclear power training, he was a reactor controls officer aboard U.S. nuclear submarine Nautilus, which achieved the milestone of reaching the North Pole. Subsequently, he gained celebrity status, even participating in the NBC TV show Concentration, securing a win and recognition. Advancing through various roles such as Chief Engineer, Engineer Officer, and Lieutenant Commander on different submarines, by the time of commanding USS Thresher, he had amassed substantial expertise. Thresher's hull, constructed from high-80 steel, remarkably strong yet relatively lightweight, was engineered to endure pressures up to 80,000 pounds per square inch and dive up to 1,300 feet. This submarine was the first U.S. creation utilizing this material, and the Navy was keen on assessing its potential. After the initial dive, Harvey directed Skylark to a point 200 miles east of Cape Cod. The Thresher dove again, with each crew member, encompassing 16 civilians, diligently engaged, acclimating to the underwater environment, embracing camaraderie and routing. On April 10th, at 6:35 a.m., USS Thresher emerged at periscope depth, 10 miles from Skylark's position. Communications between the vessels were established, and Harvey expressed satisfaction with the progress achieved. Although it was Skylark's responsibility to track Thresher's movements, its capabilities were limited if things went awry at Thresher's maximum depth. The ship possessed a rescue chamber, designed to descend to 850 feet, falling significantly short of Thresher's anticipated operational depth of 1,300 feet. Having only been utilized once before to rescue 33 men from a distressed submarine at 250 feet in 1939, Skylark's chamber was largely untested. Embarking on her defining dive to the test depth, Thresher immersed herself into the undersea darkness. Familiar with such descents, the submarine had previously achieved 1,300 feet on 40 occasions prior to her overhaul. However, this time, the atmosphere was different. An unseen complication was imminent. Throughout the descent, Harvey maintained communication with Skylark, reporting their progress. He informed them of reaching 400 feet, and minutes later, half of the test depth. All seemed in accordance with the plan. Communications were robust. The vessel was intact, and there were no indications of hull damage, a detail meticulously monitored by the crew. Nonetheless, danger was lurking. The deeper Thresher went, the greater the pressure exerted on her steel frame. During her overhaul, joints on the submarine had been sealed with silver brazing instead of the conventional welding, employing a molten silver-based alloy to fortify the joints. Under the intense oceanic pressure, one of these joints started to fracture. A leak emerged in the saltwater piping system, prompting immediate action. Harvey, stationed in the control room, was swiftly informed of the development. Grasping the severity of the situation, he promptly contacted Skylark via the underwater telephone. He conveyed a message of experiencing minor difficulties, without disclosing the specifics. Amidst the uncertainty, the crew endeavored to identify the leak source. Descending to surface, Harvey initiated the ascent, recognizing the urgency of their predicament. Seawater infiltrated, threatening to short-circuit the electrical board. With the electrical systems compromised, the nuclear reactor commenced shutdown procedures. Without power, they faced the grim possibility of descending further into the Atlantic depth. The situation had escalated beyond minor difficulties, but Harvey strove to maintain a composed demeanor for his crew. Despite the adversities, he communicated their efforts to stabilize the submarine to Skylark, indicating a positive upward angle. The vessel was ascending, counteracting its previous descent. However, the leaks intensified, water ingress accelerated, and the lights flickered intermittently. Electricity became unreliable, essential valves were sealed, and coolant pumps ceased operation. The submarine's systems were gradually failing, preventing steam generation required for propulsion towards the surface. Plunging into the abyss, Harvey executed a final emergency measure to preserve the lives of 129 on board. This entailed a blow-up procedure, injecting high-pressure air into the ballast tanks to expel water, reduce weight, and facilitate ascent. At 9:30 a.m., Skylark detected the sound of this procedure on the sonar. However, it was evident that the attempt had faltered. The submarine's increasing depth and the resultant pressure hindered the water expulsion. Lieutenant Commander Stanley Hecker of Skylark requested navigational details from Harvey. The line remained silent. Desperation engulfed Skylark's crew, pondering if they had witnessed their comrades' final moments. Stanley Hecker persisted, seeking confirmation of control, but the airwaves remained eerily quiet. Submerged, the men continued their struggle for survival. By 9:07 a.m., Harvey discovered that they had descended 900 feet beyond the test depth. Frantically, he radioed Skylark, but the transmission was garbled, leaving Stanley Hecker straining to decipher the fragmented message. He intercepted the words, 900 north, alluding to Thresher being 900 feet beyond the test depth of 1,300 feet. This signified a perilous depth for the submarine. It wasn't engineered to endure the pressure at such depths. The debate surrounds the minor difficulty, Harvey initially reported. Had water been infiltrating through a pipe of a few inches in diameter, seawater would have surged in at velocities up to 1,800 miles per hour at that depth. Inundation would have been swift. Such a scenario wouldn't be termed minor. Moreover, if water was surging in, Skylark would likely have detected the tumult and rushing noise over the phone line. Communications would have presumably been disrupted. Speculation suggests the minor difficulty at this juncture was a power outage due to an electrical malfunction. Seawater was presumably inundating the submarine now. The water's force would have catapulted crew members through the air as they were caught off guard by the incoming streams. Frantic efforts were made to seal the breaches. The hull, under immense pressure, emitted creaking and groaning sounds, indicating impending failure. Sounds of metal clashing resonated as the submarine, under immense sea pressure, started disintegrating. Pipes ruptured. The insulating cork within began to splinter and peel off. Were these their last moments? Less than 60 seconds after receiving Harvey's most recent message, Skylark discerned a terrifying noise. The sonar detected an implosion. The submarine's hull collapsing at 2,400 feet, followed by a bubble pulse. A chill traversed Lieutenant Commander Stanley Hecker's spine. Anxiously, he attempted to contact USS Thresher. Silence prevailed. Instantaneously, Skylark deployed grenades, the pre-established signal indicating loss of communication and instructing the submarine to surface to no avail. Experts postulate the implosion would have concluded in a 20th of a second, rendering cognitive comprehension by the crew impossible. The immense weight of 2,400 feet of water above would have instantly obliterated everything. The supposedly indestructible USS Thresher, along with 129 souls aboard, descended to the Atlantic abyss. Upon losing communication, Skylark relayed the dire circumstances to officers ashore, and by 1900, on April 10th, the families of USS Thresher's crew received the tragic news. For the Navy personnel and affected families, this marked a devastating conclusion. The news of the loss was almost unbearable, with the sole consolation being the instantaneous nature of the crew's demise, eliminating prolonged suffering. But for some of the search and rescue teams dispatched to the site, hope lingered. Allegations of a Navy cover-up and emerging revelations about the events following Thresher's radio silence suggested there was more to unravel. As several destroyers and additional vessels from the Atlantic Fleet converged on USS Thresher's last known location, Skylark stayed put, powerless to amend the situation. Had the submarine not suffered a catastrophic implosion, perhaps the crew might have contained the leaks. Was survival conceivable? Another submarine, USS Seawolf, approached the site, reaching by the morning of April 11th, with everyone attuned to their sonar and hydrophones. In anticipation, they listened. Then a distinctive ping, possibly from an underwater telephone, resonated. USS Seawolf responded, requesting 5 dashes for identification. An agonizing wait ensued, followed by more pings. Were they nearing the lost submarine? Had any crew survived? Perhaps the submarine had achieved neutral buoyancy, incapable of ascending or descending. USS Seawolf persisted, attempting to triangulate the source with each received ping. The crew clung to the hope of discovering their beleaguered comrades. A total of 37 pings echoed through the sonar. The control room was engulfed in eerie whispers, like faint voices traversing the ocean, intercepted by their receiver. Could these be the spectral voices of Thresher's crew? U.S. Seawolf reiterated the request for identification. Combing through the Atlantic off the continental shelf, the sounds intimating life beneath the surface haunted the USS Seawolf crew. As the whispers subsided, a more pronounced sound emerged. The sonar captured what resembled metal striking metal, a universal distress signal from a submarine. If electronics were compromised, striking the submarine's hull often remains the sole communication method. In an anxious attempt to communicate with potential survivors, USS Seawolf signals Thresher to strike 5 times to affirm its identity. The banging persists, albeit not in the exact count requested. Subsequently, silence ensues. The testimonials from those aboard Seawolf were initially concealed from public knowledge by the U.S. Navy, likely to prevent instilling false hope in the bereaved families. It's only in recent times that these documents have been unsealed and scrutinized. Nonetheless, convincing evidence posits that USS Thresher experienced an implosion minutes post its last communication with Skylab. The vicinity around Thresher's final recorded location was bustling with search and rescue vessels. The noises Seawolf intercepted could have originated from any of these crafts. By evaluating the audio Skylark received and the recorded depth, it was deduced that the crew had perished. The probability is that the submarine imploded while descending further owing to electrical malfunction and eventual power loss. Despite Seawolf's fervent hopes, experts assert the impossibility of Thresher maintaining neutral buoyancy slightly above the collapse depth, transmitting those distress signals and evading detection by the numerous vessels converging on the site. In the ensuing weeks, search vessels meticulously combed the ocean bed for remnants of USS Thresher. Utilizing magnetometers, sonar, and Geiger counters, they identified debris dispersed over an extensive area. Some debris ascended to the surface and was retrieved. Subsequently, the U.S. dispatched its sole bathyscaphe, Trieste to Setu, a manned submersible equipped for reaching the ocean floor where Thresher rested. Trieste to Switten discerned the widespread debris field and collected some material for examination. The shattered hull lay fragmented, metal components twisted and deformed. The remnants of what was once a significant asset to the U.S. Navy now resided in fragments 500 feet beneath the sea. The tragic sinking of USS Thresher, deemed the gravest submarine catastrophe in U.S. history, ushered in the initiation of SubSafe, a program aimed at forestalling flooding during submersion. Every procedure and material employed in the construction and maintenance of submarines are rigorously monitored. Each component involved in the creation process is authenticated and traceable. Insights into manufacturing defects were gleaned from Thresher's calamity. The silver brazed joints were deficient. Essential apparatus to counteract flooding was unreachable to the crew. Exposure of electrical components to seawater resulted in short circuits, reactor shutdown, and ultimately a power outage. Moreover, the ballast tank blow system malfunctioned due to ice accumulation in a constrained air system. These oversights precipitated the 1963 catastrophe, but have since been addressed. Subsequently, only a single U.S. submarine has been lost, and it lacked SubSafe certification. As nations persist in fortifying their defenses, mishaps in weaponry are inevitable. Enhancements in armaments and defense mechanisms bolster our nation's strength. However, it prompts the question, at what expense? We appreciate your viewership. Remember to like, Subscribe and activate notifications for updates on similar content. We welcome your opinions. Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Until our next presentation.